the output showed that a kind act does have a significant effect on our happiness and well-being. It's one of the most effective ways to influence the well-being of you and another human being simultaneously.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
My friend Jaclyn Lindsey is on the show today, and she's one of my favorite humans. She is the founder and CEO of kindness.org, which is an organization, a nonprofit built around kindness, the study of kindness, acts of kindness. They're very data-driven, research-driven. They're global, and she started this from scratch. Prior to that, she was the head of key relationships for one of my other favorite charities, Charity Water. So she's got some pretty solid background in the nonprofit space. And when she decided she wanted to do her own thing, she kind of went on this journey and got quiet and started writing down, things that she wanted to stand for. We talked this through in this episode. She wrote down some things one day and she looked at it and she's like, is this a job or is this a mantra? Which kind of cracks me up because I think a lot of us do that in those reflection stages. Well, fast forward, and she created that exact thing. She talks about how she did this. She took it from the intangible, what felt kind of esoteric and unattainable, and she brought it into a model that works. It's a nonprofit that she's created that's several years down the road, and it's just been thriving. Jaclyn is also a graduate of the Renegade Brand Bootcamp, my program, and she's a new author. So you can check out her new book. It's called Be Kind. It's 52 weeks of kindness, meaning suggestions, ways that you can carry out acts of kindness, and there's research, statistics, data that backs up what happens when you do these acts. It's an amazing, very tactical book, but it's also beautiful. And I'm fortunate to be a contributor to Be Kind, which is, of course, available on Amazon. Jaclyn and I also discuss the process and journey she has had with sharing more of her why as the founder of a nonprofit and becoming more of the face of the brand. So we talk through the dynamics and what that experience has been like for her, because it's not always easy. And she's very real and shares why she started this organization. Our conversation is wide-ranging. It's a chat between two friends, and let's hop into it. Jaclyn, my friend, welcome to the Why Not Now show. I'm so excited to have you. This has been a long time coming, and let's just dive right in. So, can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you asked yourself, why not now?
Yes, definitely. Hi, Amy Jo. It's so exciting to be with you. And I've been thinking a lot about the why not now question in leading up to our interview. And the story that I want to share is the one that was really the impetus for where I am today professionally, which is leading an organization called kindness.org. So several years ago, I was in a job that I loved, felt I had a very meaningful career. It had brought me to New York. I had fallen in love with Brooklyn and was living this kind of dream life that I think checked every box, which is why it didn't make sense that I was really struggling through feeling like there was something different or something else that I should be doing. I went on a pretty robust learning journey about myself over many, many months, thinking through where would I go? What would I do? Who am I? What do I stand for? At first, I was really drawn to the hospitality industry and was making decisions to go into something in that field.
Hi, Abel.
I was definitely Abel, who did not get the memo. Mommy was recording.
That's the theme of all of our lives right now. You're probably going to hear Lincoln soon, so they can have a conversation in the background. Oh, the reality we're all in.
Exactly. This is self-quarantining, people.
Yeah. I mean, it's so relatable. Everybody's like, yep.
So yeah, I was just wrestling, frankly, with what to do and do I stay in this job that I still really loved and had great purpose, or do I leap into this phase of the unknown, and what is the unknown, and how will I grapple with not knowing, because I'm so type A, I feel like I always need to know everything. And so I was in that mental space. I had made the decision that I was ultimately going to leave my job and thought I had a plan, and yet felt like it wasn't the right plan. And I had someone who you and I know very well, who introduced the two of us, who was out at dinner with me. And he just was like, Jack, I've never seen you like this. What is your mission? What is it that you want to stand for? And it was such a simple question, yet incredibly provocative. And I decided to set some time apart to try and answer that question. What is my mission statement? I'd been involved in the charity space for so long, fighting for and supporting so many different kinds of mission statements, but in a way I had never really known what I stood for, who I wanted to be. And that question led me to a beach in California. The ocean is my happy place. It's where I feel most connected to God, and where I feel like I almost have wisdom emerge from the waves. And I just sat for many, many hours and tried to listen and prayerfully consider what I wanted to do, what my mission was, and how that could potentially translate into the future state of my life. And at the end of that, in giant letters, I wrote in my journal, love others well, speak truth and encouragement, and inspire kindness and generosity. And this, of course, was not at all the kind of clarified mission statement I was looking for. It left me with a lot more questions of, how do I do that practically? Is that a job, or is this just like a mantra I'm going to operate by? And so I didn't know what to do with it, but I did know I ultimately, needed to take the time and not pursue any venture, but to leave my job and focus on figuring out what was going to come next for me. So it was a very big why not now, because I had made so many decisions and yet was still grappling with if it was right or not. I was questioning everything. I was full of so much doubt. I felt insecure. I felt, self-conscious. I felt that I was making foolish decisions. And it was through all of that I got so close to who I was. I took this leap of faith. I called it chasing the unknown. And it was such a pivotal moment, because I fully surrendered that I don't care what people think. I don't care how this looks. I know that there were people along the way that might have been, hurt or affected by this whole process I went through. So I had to reconcile with that. But this was really one of the first times that I can truly and deeply say I trusted myself and I listened to myself and I took that leap. And then a really beautiful moment came when several months after that journal entry, a dear friend and someone who had been supporting the previous organization I was with, we were having lunch and he said, I've been thinking a lot about this idea and I would love to explore doing it with you. I said, well, what is it? And he said, it's around inspiring kindness in the world. And I showed him a photo of my journal entry. I said, well, that's what I wrote in my journal 6 months ago. That's why I'm leaving. I don't have a plan lined up. And while I don't know for certain if this means we're going to do something around inspiring kindness, I know that this is the validation I needed, that I'm doing the right thing.
Oh my goodness. There are so many things you just shared that I want to dive in deeper to. And the trusting yourself that you mentioned there at the end, that what a big part of it. I keep having in my head, like, that's a tweetable moment. That's a tweetable thing. I don't know if you ever have heard Oprah say that as she's listening to someone talk and she's like, oh, that's a tweet. Because everything you just said, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Everything. Let's go back to kind of the beginning when you said the position you were in, it checked all the boxes. And I hear this so often where we don't really have a really strong reason on paper to make a shift or a change. But it's an inner knowing it's like the biggest data point that we overlook sometimes. And thankfully, you had that dinner with our mutual friend who asked that provocative question. Did it take a while for you to kind of struggle internally of, no, I should want this. This is what I wanted. Or did you just kind of know, okay, I know there's something else? Like, was there an internal struggle?
Yes, definitely. And there are so many variables for me personally as to what fed into that struggle, and some of which actually are the impetus for my heart and passion for the idea of kindness as a way to live. But I was operating in this place where I had some deep-seated insecurities that I hadn't quite faced. And those insecurities manifested in ways that led me to question my ability. And so it felt safer to just keep operating as normal. Interestingly enough, I would say I tend to lean away from the safe way. I'm more the person who will ask for forgiveness than permission. And yet here I was doing my best in this job, and a job that I really did love and I felt rewarded by, and that I was so humbled to do. It was as a fundraiser for an incredible nonprofit organization. And yet I couldn't shake what I was feeling. And so it was many, many months, many late night conversations with my husband, many journal entries, probably a couple too many bottles of wine split with friends, where it was just trying to process and understand, why does the tension exist? Where is it stemming from? And how can I overcome it? So it was quite a long journey.
Look at the self-awareness and also 100% responsibility there too. And I imagine that took some time to kind of arrive at. But when you were asked the question of, what is it that you want to stand for? You use the word provocative, and it's such a good word, but that is overwhelming to so many of us, where it's like, what? Like, and I know a lot of people freeze and either get scared or feel like maybe what they've done up until that point hasn't been meaningful or worth anything. And so that question of what is it that you want to stand for, that was a feeling of being a little confronted. At first, did you feel open to it, or were you kind of resisting?
Yeah, no, another really good question. I mean, I think that there's one side of it, right? Which is you want to feel like you know what you stand for as a human. And arguably, I would say I know what matters most to me in the world. And And I tried to live those things out in my daily life and how I cared for people. But I think the struggle is one, for everyone, it may not be that what you stand for translates to your 9 to 5 job, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that I could work anywhere and I would make it my mission to give my whole heart to wherever I was. I see it as an opportunity to serve. And that's any role, whether you're flipping burgers, which I've done, serving pizzas, which I've done, or delivering pizzas. There's nothing where I don't think you have the chance to try and embody the values you stand for. But I knew I wasn't just looking for a 9 to 5 job. My work, it was critical, needed to have deep meaning for me. And so that added a layer of complexity. Then you layer in the idea that I've really always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I was ready to harness that or get back to that drive that I had but lost over the years. And so you start to be faced with this almost conundrum. Well, okay, I want to stand for these things, and I feel like I want to build something of my own, and I need to do something that is fulfilling every single day. I can't just clock in and clock out. So it was a big puzzle, and the pieces weren't always fitting together, but every time I did discover something new about myself or had a really profound conversation with someone I respected, something fell into place, allowing me to get to some version of a complete puzzle. Although I would argue I'm always a work in progress. So new puzzle pieces get added in every so often.
Same. The fact that you trusted this process was, gosh, it seems like it was so key, because as you wrote in your journal, love others well, speak truth, you're talking about kindness and generosity. And then you ask the question, is this a job or is this a mantra, right? And I know so many people, and working with women, usually it starts and it feels fluffy, meaning, is there a tangible job here somewhere? Like, can I get paid to be in this bucket of words that I just put together that might feel like a poem? And if you would have gotten discouraged and kind of shut the journal, and just, then you probably wouldn't have been open when that conversation came up at lunch that day that turned it into a total career, a next career path. But I really appreciate you sharing that and want to honor that, because how we start, it was literally a journal entry. It wasn't a job description. It wasn't a business strategy or outline, some economic model. It started with such genuine kind of innate emotion. So thank you for sharing that, because going from that to an organization that you've built and created, which I really want to get to now, probably didn't seem that feasible at the moment. But you had to, like you said, trust yourself and surrender. And you said, I didn't care. I finally didn't care what people thought, didn't care how it looked. And I know in leaving companies in the past, I almost worried about what my previous employer or leadership team or bosses cared more than anyone. I've always I think it's a natural thing. I just talked to someone yesterday who they had to really kind of let go of those leadership figures that were in their previous organization or employer. And it sounds like you might have felt that way too.
Very much so. I operate under performance, or I operate best against performance and deliverables and outputs. And I worked for a leader who I just deeply respected, and alongside a team who I cared greatly for. I can say part of it was certainly feeling like, am I letting people down? How am I going, to hurt people throughout the process? That was a lot that I had to go through. In general, I think too, the root of some of my insecurities come from caring what people think about me. And when I was young, early on growing up in elementary school, most of my memories have a lot of beautiful themes of self-confidence and a desire to help people and for unity and human equity. Like, I had these things and memories that really stand out early on. And then I went through a really difficult, long season of bullying. And I know now that that was a huge factor in how I operated as an adult and how I wanted others to see me and view me, because I was always seeking that validation that I was good enough, smart enough, pretty enough. And that would manifest in ways such as, yes, not wanting to like let the boss down, or worried about who I might be hurting in the process of doing what's best for me, because you almost feel selfish.
It's interesting how you arrived at this, this nonprofit idea, and then later realized, and maybe this sequence of events is a little different, but it seems, and just knowing you, that it became more and more clear that, oh, maybe the passion and desire for this has to do with some things that happened in my childhood or in my past that you didn't even realize to begin with, that maybe it was such a driving force, which is kind of another beautiful non-coincidence, but you just didn't really see it coming. So then, I mean, we could take this in so many different directions, Jaclyn, and knowing you, like, I'm curious. So you now, if you could take us into what kindness.org, what is it, and kind of where you are right now, and how this has manifested in not only your life, but also building this entity. It's been fascinating to watch. I've been so honored to be a part of it. And it's always evolving. I can imagine right now too, with, like we were talking about before the call, quarantine. And how do you have acts of kindness when we're in quarantine? But we can get there. So the next chapter in the story, so you start it, you do it.
Yes. So we have this lunch, this infamous lunch takes place. And I had already committed to do a several-month-long sabbatical to just rest and try and reframe and reset myself. And so that looked like a lot of travel with my husband, a lot of family time, a lot of pausing on technology, journaling, things like that. And it was a really beautiful and wonderful season. And over that time, I continued to speak to Neil, who is my now co-founder. The exploration was really around, okay, he and I are both feeling this pull towards kindness. We've independently landed there that it matters to us, but what does that actually translate into? And he had a desire to channel some of his philanthropic dollars into this idea. But we didn't want to just start something for sake of starting it. We wanted to really understand, how could we have a meaningful contribution in the world with this, frankly, nebulous mission, something that's quite hard to quantify and define and think through what impact of it means. And so for the better part of 2015 and the end of 2015 and into 2016, I really tried to do a market assessment and just understand who's doing the work in the kindness space, compassion and empathy. What are the different models and ways that you could design or build something tied to kindness? So, are we a for-profit? Are we a consulting company? Are we an investment fund that's amplifying other amazing ideas anchored around this idea of kindness? Are we B Corp, nonprofit? So it was really an exploratory phase to understand who's out there, who's talking about this, how are they doing it? Is there a gap? And is there a way that we could do something unique and meaningful? And at the end of that, where we landed and what the recommendation ultimately was, is becoming a public charity so that no one would question our intention. So we did land on being a nonprofit was the way to go as far as our structure. And then as far as what we would do, we would use science to develop kindness-based solutions for solving problems, essentially. And what I mean by that is we had the opportunity to sit with academics from Princeton and Berkeley and Stanford and many others who were studying things like prosocial behavior, human cooperation. They were looking at the psychology behind our choices and why we do or don't choose kindness. And then we looked at all these amazing organizations who were talking about kindness in some capacity, but we saw a gap in anyone who was using science to build their impact or to design programs. And so we've come out really trying to operate by being underpinned by science, very research-led, and making sure that everything we do is credible, that we can validate it, that we're looking at the data and the evidence, but coupled with building hopefully a mission that resonates with people around the world that can mobilize people wherever they are to choose kindness. So we do that through inspirational content storytelling, and trying to invest into digital connectivity and really lean in nimble, but allowing access to the tools we develop or the programs we create to be accessed by anyone around the world. So it's been a wild ride, because even with that, where do you begin to think about impact? What are the programs you build? What are the needs? Kindness is truly a language everyone speaks. And what we couldn't have been prepared for, though one would hope for, was the immediate global reaction to our work and to this mission. So we launched officially at the end of 2016, and it's been such a roller coaster, Amy Jo, of course. What startup isn't, obviously. And many times I feel like I don't see like any stop on the ride. I mean, I am just full force in it, and it keeps me incredibly humbled and grateful. I think the biggest thing throughout the time has been realizing that this isn't an easy solution to package up. There are so many initiatives and missions out there where it's a very clear-cut understanding of what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. And this has been, well, kindness matters. And we're learning a lot about the data and just how much it matters and just how much it affects our health and well-being, physically, emotionally, mentally. The data is fascinating. But then how you package and translate that and do that knowledge translation from the science to, mass consumption, that's been one of the most difficult and yet necessary things that we've had to commit to.
I think one of your gifts, one of many, one of your gifts, Jaclyn, is taking intangibles and making them tangible, whether that's a journal entry that turns into a full-blown nonprofit, or the word kindness that then is brought down from the clouds kind of to earth, and you're backing it with science and data and research and measuring impact. And so I so appreciate your ability to do that, because I think a lot of times our dreams live in the intangibles, and it's sometimes hard to bring them down into, a tactical, literal thing. And you have such a gift for that. So can you share really just briefly what happened when you launched? And I was grateful to be over in London with you when you were kicking things off. I mean, this was at your infancy. You had already done your learning tour, as you mentioned, but I was just kind of a witness to how this started from just a all hands on deck, scrappy startup like we all are when we start. And then all of a sudden something big happens. And I don't use the word viral loosely, especially with my background, because it can so be overused, but you legitimately did go viral. And what a dream come true. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like?
So by this point, fast forwarding almost a year since that initial conversation Neil and I had, we ended up bringing in a third friend who had also independently landed on the idea of kindness to be our third partner in this. And what we looked at for the launch were a few key things. We wanted to come out with a piece of research that we thought would contribute in a meaningful way to the scientific space around this idea of kindness. And we wanted to create a piece of content that we thought could showcase kindness in a way that was accessible. And we planned to release that online. We did a really thoughtful press strategy anchored around the launch, what we were trying to design and build, leveraging the research component. And we built a website and had a platform where you could log and share stories and acts of kindness. And we had a variety of people speaking into that with what kindness meant to them. You, Amy Jo, were one of them. And that was about helping to amplify the message and have real people talking about why kindness matters to them and what an act of kindness looks like in their own life. So multiple pieces of the strategy were in play. The research we did was conducted in collaboration with Oxford University. We had an incredible scientific team come in to try and study the link between a kind act and our well-being and happiness. So we were really interested in the idea of kindness as a choice in the actions we make or don't make. And so they did what's called a systematic literature review, incredibly groundbreaking piece of research. And through that came a meta-analysis, and the output showed that a kind act does have a significant effect on our happiness and well-being. It's one of the most effective ways to influence the well-being of you and another human being simultaneously. So really powerful piece of research. And then this video, it was just, kind of an idea to create a video showing a gentleman going around asking people if he could help them with anything. And we put it online on Facebook. We worked with a brilliant team out of London who we're still dear friends with, and they've gone on to produce other content for us as well. But it was just showing the simplicity of what happens when you say, can I help you with anything? And the beauty of what can come when you offer that. And that video immediately went viral. It is actually now considered the most viewed charity video on Facebook from all the data points that we've been given and told. And
how many views? How many views? Just, I'm a metrics girl.
So we're over 120 million views.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it warms my heart.
And it was incredible. I mean, the stories that came, the outpouring of people just resonating with this mission. I made a commitment that we would respond to every single message, and we received thousands of letters from people literally in more than 190 countries. That's actually letters in, through current day, but it has been unbelievable seeing the response and reaction, even still, to content when you put something out that resonates with people. So yes, it went viral. It was one of three. We've now had 3 videos go viral. So I think it's indicative to the craving and hunger people have on the digital space for more kindness. Mm-hmm. And we've really been fortunate to leverage content to help drive action and to help, bring people into the fold of the work we're doing.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, I've got an announcement. As of today, we are officially enrolling for the 2021 Renegade Accelerator Program, formerly called the Renegade Brand Bootcamp. Okay, so who is this program for? What is it? The Renegade Accelerator is for driven female leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs ready to massively increase their impact and income. The program is for like-minded, like-hearted women all over the globe. The experience is intimate, live, real-time, virtual, and it's led by me. Our curriculum is equal parts education, practical education, collaboration, and accountability. In the accelerator, you'll learn directly from me, and I share everything I've learned over the past 20 years in business. We meet in real time to learn, discuss, and grow together. This is high touch. I'll teach you a variety of things, from personal branding to the business side of public speaking, podcasting, publishing, marketing partnerships, how to productize your intellectual property, and we even talk about investing. I teach you all about the different types of investing in order to build your personal wealth. You will also learn the Renegade mentality, which is a key ingredient in your success to generate real results. This program is the career love of my life because I get to curate a mosaic of driven, like-minded, like-hearted women who come together to lift each other and themselves up to the next level. After the Renegade Accelerator, you become a member of my top-level alumni community. This group of unmatched women who are making a positive impact is personally curated by me. The relationship building and networking opportunities are endless, and this collective of real, valuable connections will be something that you have forever. If you're at the point where you are ready to take action and accelerate, head to renegadeaccelerator.com. You can sign up for more information where I will guide you in determining if the program and the timing is right for you. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Why not now? Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. If it's okay with you, I'd love to bring this back around to Jaclyn and just shed some light on a conversation you and I had had for a few years. I'm kind of known for encouraging people to humanize their brands and share their why behind and their who. And I know for a while it was, there was just not a strong desire to lean into that, and it's also very understandable given kind of the topic and having worked with you in the Renegade Brand Bootcamp too. Do you mind talking a little bit about that and kind of where you are now and what it's been like to navigate as a founder of something that is so human? I mean, kindness is it's a fabric of humanity. Where you kind of netted out and how you're navigating showing up more, with your story and with where this started, like the genesis. I'm a strong believer in that people do care and want to know, and it just helps that loyalty. And yeah, I think it's just so relevant. So many people are in similar spots.
Yeah, definitely. Man, so first and foremost, in general, I've struggled to want to talk about myself, and so that's just been something I've worked through on the personal front in general. But when I got into this, I was sitting with our team, and we really were intentional that we didn't want to anchor this in the face of one of us, me as the CEO. And that was saying we wanted to try and build this where it was reflective of reality, that kindness is about all of us as humans. And so it was a very intentional choice that you can't find us on the website. And I did very little to self-promote who I was and my role connected to this organization. I even remember when we were working on the press strategy, I was trying to find a way, do they need to interview someone? Can we just highlight the work and the mission and the organization? And they said, no, we need a face. We need someone to be a spokesperson.
We need a human heartbeat. Yeah.
So it's been an evolution of one, realizing people want to hear from the human side of this, exactly like you're saying. You can have all the, beautiful elements of a brand or, a stunning website, but if there isn't rawness, if there isn't realness behind it, then what's it for? And that comes through the voice of a person, I believe. I think there's only so much work a brand can really do. And, for me, frankly, going through the Renegade Brand Bootcamp in the fall, that was me taking that intentional step to say, I am ready to embrace this reality that I have a voice in this. I have a lot to say, and I do have a credible contribution to make on the topic. And this also was, I feel like a lot of things are tied back to this, but it was me working through that self-doubt again. Why was I nervous to do this? What was holding me back from it? And once I was able to really reconcile that, and yeah, there might be haters, you might have days where you're feeling like a post, I don't know, was silly or something, but as long as you're just being true to you, at the end of the day, that's what matters most to me. I want to feel that I'm just honoring who I am and honoring the mission through that. So I've made a commitment to start being a lot more vocal, even being with you here today is a reflection of that commitment, that I am so proud of the work that we're doing, and I'm proud of my role within it. And I want to encourage anyone who might be struggling with that. One, completely understandable. Two, if you decide, building your own brand, or having that human heartbeat to the work you do isn't for you, I respect that and will support anyone who chooses, to go down that path. But by me opening myself up to saying, I want to talk about this and I want to be a spokesperson for this, it's honestly just amplifying the mission more. And it's also helping me grow in who I am, which I never want to stop doing. So it's been a win-win.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I appreciate you sharing, because this is not uncommon that, we feel this way. And founders feel this way, CEOs, leaders, solopreneurs. And I think it's what you came around to at the end there, of you're proud of the work you're doing. It lights me up, because that is coming from a place of service, and you can, as you share, and this right now, I know this is a big deal. It's not every day you hop in and start talking and sharing your story. And of course, you've had some amazing interviews, and you've been on the Today Show and so on and so forth, but it's always that work that is leading, it seems. And so this is a big deal to kind of, to even address this. But coming from that place of service, I think sometimes helps people ease that sting of, oh my gosh, am I being humble enough? Do people care about me? And all of the mind, the monkey mind and all of that normal self-talk that we have. It's just focusing on, okay, I am here. This is for them. This is for, for the people that you're serving, and you're the guide, obviously not the hero, and that you can't fake that as you show up that way. So I'm so grateful that the world gets to hear more of your story too. And so would you say, I'm sure it's a work in progress, but you've been, with the recent book that you wrote or co-wrote, and just kind of experimenting with ways you're sharing your story. Is it feeling better? Are you finding that it's opening up and kind of getting easier?
Also a good question. So the book was such an interesting exercise in this because it's print. And
Yeah.
I know kind of like, the digital side, I feel like there's more chances to scrub it than there is to somehow get every copy of a book and take them away. So, um, I mean, in all seriousness, the book, it's called Be Kind, and it's taking the reader on a journey through a year of kindness week by week. So our organization's mission is to educate and inspire you to choose kindness. So the science is where we educate, content's where we inspire, but ultimately it's up to you to decide to choose it. And so we are here to provide ACT recommendations and help you think through your choices and what that looks like. And then that translates into how we develop our programs. And so each week you hear from a scientist and a thought leader, and you hear real stories of acts of kindness. And then we guide you with what to try and do that week to get you out of your comfort zone a little bit with kindness. So it's really a compilation, a curation, if you will. So my writing contribution really was focused around the intro. And it was such a hard thing to sit and write because it was an opportunity to be real, but it was also an opportunity to just play it safe. I could have chosen one of two options, I would say. And that was probably the biggest test for me, because I was ready to say, I'm putting this in print. It's not going to go anywhere. And what are the words that I'm going to choose to write down? And I gave it so much thought, and I sat to write that first version. And it did shift just a little bit, finessed words, grammatically, commas. But the intention of what I sat to write my very first time stayed the same. And it was the realest I've ever been publicly,
Mm.
um, to an audience who doesn't know me. And it was so hard and yet so good. And I'm so confident I made the right choice that day when I sat to write and just be real. And it's a short but very authentic intro into who Jaclyn is and how I got here and why I am the way I am, I guess. So it does get easier. That was one of the hardest things I've done. Being with you now, I even find myself like in real time feeling like I'm sharing more than maybe I'm normally comfortable with, but I am fighting to keep being true to who I am, and in some way hopefully this can resonate with someone out there who's figuring out what that looks like for themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's time and frequency and just practice of, being able to have these conversations does tend to make things a little, I don't know if easier is the right word, but comfortable, maybe a little bit more comfortable. And so within the intro, you focused on the bullying aspect. And did you find it kind of therapeutic in its own way?
I did.
Yeah.
I focused, it was very few words, but the intention was loud and clear. My experiences in middle school and high school led me down an incredibly self destructive path towards drug use. And that drug use led me down very scary paths of not knowing if I would survive, and landed myself in the hospital. And that led me to faith. My faith now is the anchor of all that I do. It's certainly what's behind this work and this mission. And I think I really struggled to intertwine all of that out of hesitancy. One, there's something around this idea of kindness and maybe an expectation I had on myself that no one else has necessarily put on me, that I need to be kind all the time, and almost this idea of like you must be like a goody two shoes, or I even wondered like, do people think I'm fake or I'm not really a kind person or something. I will say actually in one or two arguments, very heated arguments with my husband, he's certainly muttered something along the lines of more like the CEO of meanness.org. So I am a human. I of course am not kind all the time, but I think showing all those sides of my journey, it was trying to say we've all had a story. We all have a story. And to me, it is those elements of what I've been through that make up who I am today. And I'm proud of where I've gotten to. And I'm excited to see how much more I evolve and grow. And so I don't want to dismiss the background of what makes up Jaclyn, because it's not just the story, it's the fabric, but it's helped shape how I want to lead, who I want to be, how I show up for friends and strangers and family. And so that means it's a relevant data point to have.
Oh, I've got full just goosebumps over here. And I just, it's been such a beautiful process to see you navigate, and the fact that you went there, like even today, seeing is believing. And it's, I think it's hard for us sometimes to sit back and listen and hear about, these stories, success stories that sound, yeah, wow, got it all figured out. And then what we realize is, like with you, we do learn what we need to teach. And there's so much more volume and weight and impact and ability to drive action, I think, when we go to those areas in our paths where we've experienced some struggle, or, we are able to kind of, share those messier times. I know I'm a much more inspired by that than hearing about someone's success, and then I'm not alone in that. But thank you so much for sharing, and just it's so relevant. It's a process, isn't it? And it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I think that's the life work, is just really starting to self-actualize and how you've started to piece this together. And it's like, oh, I can kind of hear it. And I'm doing that about your story as I listen. So it's like, wow, oh, that led to that. And that, it's like, wow, this is going, this is all, there's a plan here. I would love to hear some of the things just maybe to wrap us up as people are listening, probably in their homes, working in their houses with their spouses. Do you have any tips, tricks on how to practice kindness while we're under quarantine, while we're under lockdown? And I mean, it's such a different world we're all in, this new normal.
I know it's so unprecedented, and we've certainly been thinking about our role in this time. The work we've done around actions and impact on well-being, and the role of kindness online has almost poised us to be able to help think about a response and how to equip people. So one thing that I encourage you to do if you are home with children, if you became an unexpected educator and now are trying to juggle life being home with children who are home because of school closures, if you go to our homepage, we've just launched a resource page specific to COVID-19 that can help equip you with vetted resources across a variety of categories to help talk about COVID-19 with kids. What is social emotional learning like in this environment? So it's a great tool. It's well organized and hopefully can equip you with ideas and ways to be with your children during this time. And there's loads of ideas of what kindness you can do together as a family.
And what's the URL again? It's kindness.org /
Yeah, if you go to kindness.org, you can get to the button on the homepage.
Otherwise, okay.
Yeah, otherwise the landing page it's actually learnkind.kindness.org / COVID-19.
Okay.
Yeah, whichever is easier. Learn Kind is one of our applied programs. We had actually just launched it in 120 classrooms in 18 states around the country in February, and had thousands of students going through this incredible module that we did to cultivate soft skills in the classroom in kindergarten through 8th grade, and we're studying the impact of it. We were doing surveying, and it was part of one of our partnerships that we have with Nivea, and this happened. And the reality is, what do you do when you're in the middle of program delivery?
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to quickly adapt, and that's what this page is really trying to do, is still serve families and teachers, because kindness is needed more than ever right now. Okay, so you're home, maybe you don't have kids, or you are going to check that page out, but you're also just thinking about one-off things. So this is a lot of what we're trying to do, is really equip people with tangible acts that they can do. So a few ideas: try and arrange a video visit with someone who's elderly. Not only often are elderly people the most lonely population, independent of what's happening in our world right now, they're right now obviously the most vulnerable to COVID-19. So doing something where you can connect with them and love them is something that could be, beneficial to both of you. So highly encourage something like that. Obviously, maybe not everyone in your life who's elderly has video access, or you can do a phone call as a backup. Really thinking through the role of technology. So I do feel that a gift towards self right now is using this time to rest. I've talked to so many people who are overwhelmed by the news and the media, and they're like going stir crazy. Okay, you're home, right? I know it's seemingly very difficult, but what does it look like for you to somehow find a silver lining in this dark cloud and nurture yourself? And so take a rest, really focus on spending time doing the things that you might not normally do if you had a free hour, because you're probably home and you're figuring out how to fill the time. It's almost better to just take a breath and not fill the time and just be. So no TV, just what does it look like to curl up with a book, to play a board game, put your phone away, take that long bath, answer the email from someone that you've been putting off, or even more, write the email to someone who you know you need to forgive, or someone who you want to ask forgiveness for. So it's really allowing space for those things that we can often neglect or pass over because of time. Those are a few ideas. Taking an online first aid course. I think this pandemic has probably rifled everyone in different ways. There's extremes of what you might be feeling, but being prepared and knowing things like first aid, that's not only useful and could help save a life down the road, but you're home and you might have the time now. So there's online first aid courses, and we're going to be posting vetted courses out as well, so you can keep an eye out for that. So those are some ideas.
Those are great. Those are really tangible and simple too. I mean, it's not like this has to take an entire day. You can put these in as nice little reprieves, and I love the idea of taking this time to kind of rest, pick our heads up, reflect a bit. And the completions, like reaching out to someone to complete an energetic loop and kind of, that's so powerful. And it's, well, thank you. Jaclyn, you've made such an impact on me personally, and I appreciate it. I know, and I can feel that you have with our listeners too. And I'm grateful for you and encourage you to continue to share your story and vision and learnings. The work you're doing is so important. It truly is. And you should be so proud. So we will be following along. And thanks for sharing your time and your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was such an honor and joy. And I'm so grateful for you. You've been an incredible mentor, friend-tor to me over the years. And it's amazing to see this come full circle and the chance to share this story so many years after we first met.
Oh, warms my heart. Thank you. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?